Okay, everybody, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Thursday afternoon, Erev Shabbat Kodesh, as we are studying together Pirkei Avot, and we are moving fast, and we have just a few more Mishnayot till the end of our chapter. So here we go. Chapter 5, today's Mishnah is Mishnah 18, if you're following along in the hardcover. If you're following along online with us, it's going to be Mishnah number 15, okay? Tetvav, Mishnah 15. So here we go, as we share the screen right here. Could I just get a thumbs up if we could see it? Great. So here we go, as we are studying this Mishnah. And the Mishnah says as follows. Arba midot beyoshvim lifnei hachamim. There are 4 types of people who sit before sages. Okay? Meaning, earlier we discussed that there are students that retain, and there are students that remember well, there are students that forget quickly, there are students that understand quickly, there are students that understand less quickly, right? Different types of students, and different memory, etc. Our Mishnah is going to address different discriminatory abilities that people have. Okay, so take a look. 4 types of students. You see, when the teacher talks, there's a lot of information coming. And there are 4 different types of students. And let us see them quickly, and then we'll elaborate. Sfog, mashpech, meshameret, venafa. Okay? These are 4 different types of, different tools that are used in connection to liquids. Okay? Or foods. A sfog, anyone know what's a sfog? A sfog is a sponge. Okay, so there's a sponge. Then you have a mashpech, that's a funnel. Okay, then there's the meshameret, and that is a strainer. And then there's the nafa, and that is a sieve. So is it good to be like those things or not good to be like those things? So of course, following the order and the outline of the previous Mishnayot that dealt with the number 4, we're going to see that it depends, some and some, okay? So as an example, to be a sfog, the Mishnah continues and says, a sfog shehu sofeg et hakol. If there are some students, they're like a sponge. And being a sponge, they absorb everything. Okay? We'll see in a minute, is that good or bad? Then you have a mashpech. A mashpech is a funnel. Machnis bezo umotzi bezo. What happens in a funnel? Liquid comes in one way and it comes out another way. Okay? Meshameret is a sieve. Motzi'a et hayayin. Sorry, it's a strainer. Not a sieve, that's the last one. A meshameret is a strainer for liquids. Motzi'a et hayayin. What happens with a strainer? All of the good wine comes out, and it holds back koletet et hashemarim. All of the garbage, all of the sediments stay back. And finally, a nafa does the exact opposite. Motzi'a et hakemach lets out the bad stuff and retains koletet et hasolet. A sieve releases the bad and it holds onto the very fine and very good type of flour. Okay, so these are the 4 types of different students that there are, especially when it comes to learning and what we choose to receive or what we choose to memorize. Okay, so the first one is a sfog, and that is a type of student who absorbs everything, literally everything, and that is not good. It's not good to absorb everything because we have to sometimes apply what's called sechel. Yes, brain. Sometimes we have to use our brain. Not everything in the world is good to memorize. Not everything in the world is good to retain. Sometimes you may hear something and it's not so important that we should remember it. Okay, yes, a sponge is dangerous. Okay, why? Because what happens is you take a sponge and it absorbs pure water, but it also absorbs the not clean water. And what happens is the clean and the not clean get mixed in. So when you squeeze the sponge out to release the water, it doesn't know which type of water to release. It's releasing a combination of good and bad water. So in life, to be a sponge is not good. We have to know what information I should absorb, which things are good for me to allow into my brain or into my life, and which pieces of information, which things are not okay for me to absorb. There are many things out there that we may hear. Sometimes we're sitting with friends and someone says something, and that's dirty water. And that is something that I should not remember. That's something that I should not keep in my mind. If you're a sponge and you let everything in and you remember everything, then eventually the Torah that you have, the clean water that we have, is going to get mixed in with the dirty water that we have. And we'll never have pure, unadulterated Torah to give over to other people. Okay? That is the first type of student who sits before a rabbi. Then there is another student who's a mashpech, a funnel. Machnis bezo umotzi bezo. All of the liquid that comes in quickly channels out and goes out the other end. This student forgets everything that he learns and retains nothing. So you have, again, the two extremes. The sponge remembers everything, not good. You have the funnel, forgets everything, also not good. Then we have the middle too. And there are people that are like a strainer. The strainer lets out the good wine, the good water, and it keeps in the bad water. Now, this could be understood in one of two ways. It could be understood in a bad way, and it could be understood in a good way. Okay? If we're going to go with the simple interpretation, that's a bad thing. Right? The strainer lets out all the wine. This third type of student, all the good information that they were taught, they forget. They let it out. And all of the bad things that they're not supposed to remember, they actually do remember. They retain all of the sediments of the wine, and they let go of all of the actual valuable wine itself. There are many people that will go to a class, and as they're sitting in a class, and there's amazing messages going on, and Dvar Torah and everything, and once in a while, either the rabbi or people around in the class will say information or something, like a joke or whatever it is, and sometimes the information is not good to keep. Let's say you're in a class and somebody spits out something. How many times as a teacher I can say, I remember this happening? I would say something in a class, and then a kid would say the wrong answer, and I would say to the kid, no, incorrect. And sometimes you have to be very explicit and clear that it's incorrect, because if you don't, then the other kids say, oh, maybe that's the right answer. So you have to be actually very straightforward and say, no, that's incorrect. Okay, wrong answer. And then on the final, I have half the class writing that answer of the kid who got it wrong. Right? So some people are like a strainer, mashpech. Machnis bezo, a meshameret, a strainer. Motzi'at hayayin, they let go of all of the right answers, all of the important information. They call it the shemarim, right? And they instead, I remember one time I was giving a class, and I was speaking about the Aron, the holy ark that had in it the tablets. You know, there's a pasuk that we say every time we take out the Torah, Vayi bin soa ha'aron. And it was whenever the ark would travel. And I gave a whole speech, very powerful message, how the Torah carries us, we're not the ones carrying it, etc., etc., etc. And there was one guy afterwards, he says, Rabbi, what an amazing class. I said, oh wow, Baruch Hashem, finally I hit somebody, I got to him. And he says, yeah, you know, I never knew that it was Vahi bin Soa ha'aron. I thought it was always Aharon. I always say my whole life wrong. I always saying it Aharon. Now I know it's ha'aron. Thank you so much, Rabbi. Hazaku Baruch. I'm like, okay, this is what the guy took from the class. Okay, it's better than nothing. Some people took nothing from the class. But some people, right, they take the wrong things. Motzi'ah et hayayin vekoletet et hashemarim. They let go of the wine and they retain all of the bad. That's even worse than the sponge. At least the sponge has the good. Or is it? Okay. Finally, nafa. Nafa is the sieve. Okay, a sifter. And what does the sieve do? The sieve lets go of all of the bad and it holds on to all of the good. And again, this is going to be understood as the best way. It symbolizes the best student who retains the essential and truthful points of a matter and rejects any superfluous or false chaff. Okay? So that is the ability to be able to retain all of the information that's important. You know, Rabbi Meir, big rabbi, we all agree? Raise your hand if you think he was not a big rabbi. Okay, great. Baruch Hashem, we all agree. Rabbi Meir, big rabbi. One time, he had a Rebbe. Anyone know the name of the rabbi of Rabbi Meir? The famous Rabbi Meir Balanes. Huge rabbi. Anyone want to take a guess his name? I challenge you. Okay, his rabbi's name was? No? Very good. Hazak. Acher. He who must not be named. Okay? Acher was, his real name was Elisha ben Abuya. Okay? Elisha ben Abuya is the name of Rabbi Meir's Rebbe. And he became a heretic. He went off the path. He became an atheist, a kofir, and therefore we don't call him by his name anymore. We call him other. Okay? But Rabbi Meir would study by him because even though he was off the derech, Rabbi Meir knew how to allow the important information to stay while getting rid of all the false information. Okay? He knew how to take the fruit and discard the peel. That is the example that is given by the rabbis. Okay? So these are, again, 4 attitudes that that exist. Yes, exactly. That's the same rabbi. They were once walking together, and they passed the eruv, and the rabbi, Rabbi Meir's rabbi, Acher, said, "Okay, Rabbi Meir, time to turn around and go back because ad kan tchum Shabbat. This is the last spot that you're allowed to walk to." And Rabbi Meir, this is what him learning from his rabbi. He would learn from him, even though he went off the derech. And by the way, the Gemara says not everyone is entitled to do that. You have to be on a very high level to be able to do that, to study from someone who is not learned. Usually, you're not supposed to do that. Okay? You're supposed to go to a rabbi who we know is of the correct philosophy. Okay? Rabbi Meir knew how to go even to someone who wasn't so clean in their philosophy and take the important and disregard the other. Okay? Either way, this is the simple interpretation to our Mishnah. There is a deeper idea over here, given by the Sefer Minhat Shabbat. And he says that actually our Mishnah is referring to 4 attitudes that people have towards familial heritage. So this is a nice one. Listen to this. You know, we're all born into families, and we have many customs in our families. Right? Some of these customs are great. Some of them are not so great. Right? And what is the attitude that we should have towards the customs and the practices of the families that we are born into? Well, some people, they're like a sponge. They absorb and follow every single practice that they saw in their parents' home. The good ones and the bad ones. My parents, they keep Pesach, so I keep Pesach. That's beautiful. But my parents also ate out. So I eat out. That's what my parents did, so that's what I do. So they're like a sponge. They're just a copy and paste. Whatever the parents do, they do. Then there are people that are the opposite. They consider themselves wiser than their parents. They view their parents as primitive. They're old-fashioned. They're the older generation. They don't know anything. They don't know what they're talking about. And so anything that my parents do is not even worth following, good or bad. And they disregard everything that they were ever told and taught. And they go off and they start completely a new lifestyle. That's also not good. And then there are finally the middle two. There are people that they're like a strainer. They let the fine wine of Torah, whatever their parents have that is valuable, it goes right through them, and they don't adopt those practices. And instead, they stay with the practices that are not so important. You know, my family, they always did X, Y, and Z, but they're selective in what they choose to follow their parents. and they only follow them in the unimportant things, in the incorrect things. My father was a big Yankees fan. And like my dad, I'm a Yankees fan, okay? Your father also went to shul every single day. Do you go to shul every single day like your father? No, I don't know about that. But the Yankees part, the Yankee sticks. So he lets all the wine go, and the sediments he keeps. And then there are the people that are the best type. They're like the sieve. They are the individuals who are able to understand and perceive clearly what it is from my family that I should retain and what it is that I should not retain. Right? Certain practices that we should be proud of. Certain things in our heritage that we should say, you know what, this is beautiful and we should hold on to it and never let it go. And there are certain things that we need to apply seichel. You know what, maybe this is not something that, my parents, yes, they did it. And again, many times I'll have a student that says to me, Rabbi, this is what my parents do, so what's wrong if I do it? You ever heard that? Many times. I'll try to convince a kid to, we're discussing Shabbat or, some halacha. He says, yeah, but my father does that. Okay. And, so, your father also makes $100,000 a year. Are you satisfied making $100,000 a year? Your father's a doctor. Do you want to be a doctor? I mean, right? Not everything that your father does is automatically something, right? We try to be better. We try to make more. We try to do more. Right? Every parent wants their child to be more than them. For some reason, when it comes to religion, even parents, they don't always want their kid to be more than them. Right? When it comes to success, when it comes to money, when it comes to house, when it comes to a car, everything in life, every parent only wants their child to be more than them. When it comes to religion, not so much. And so this is this is a different spin on what the Mishnah is saying. Again, the simple interpretation is talking about 4 types of students. We should absorb the right things and let go of the wrong things. But we're saying on a different level when it comes to family as well. Family, we should retain the correct practices and customs of our family and let go of the ones that are not correct. There is one more interpretation that I would like to share with you today on this Mishnah, okay? And that is as follows. Rabbi Twersky here, he says something very powerful. The idea of a strainer and a sieve, of filtering what information we receive. There's something called the cocktail party effect. Okay, I think we gave a class on this one time. You ever heard of the cocktail party effect? You're at a cocktail party, and there's a lot of things going on. As you're speaking to somebody, there's the AC whirring in the vents. There are other people that are talking. There's glasses that are banging against each other. There's the talk and the drink and everything going on. And yet somehow we're able to hear and to listen to the person that is talking to us. Right now, as you're looking at this phone, as you're watching this video, there's a lot of other things going on around you. There's things going on in the peripheral vision behind us. There are things that, you ready for this? Pay attention to where are your hands. All of a sudden, wherever your hands are, that piece probably feels much heavier. If you're touching a table, that table, right, you actually feel it now because your brain is going to that table. Where are your feet? Oh my God, my feet. Oh my God, I didn't even realize that, right? What are we sitting on? What are we touching? What are we holding? Right? But until we're aware of it, we don't even think because it's not something that we need to understand or to think about. There's not enough bandwidth in our brains to comprehend all of that information. So what our mind does is something called selective filtering. It allows the information that's important for us to retain or to look at or to see. It allows it in, and whatever is not important, our brain kind of actually makes it very, very blurry. Matter of fact, right now, I hope we could see clearly, okay? Be'ezrat Hashem. Yes? If you stick out your hand, look at your finger, stick out your thumb. The width of your thumb is the only thing that you actually see clearly at any one point in time. Everything else in your vision is blurry. It's blurred. Okay? Because again, in life, we cannot focus on everything. Thumbs up. Hazaku Baruch. Okay? We can only focus on certain things. Right? This is a tactic, by the way, that a magician uses. A magician's job is to get us to filter the wrong thing. So they try to grab our attention by saying, hey, look over here as I do something, and then their hand on the other side is sneaking away and doing something else. So they're grabbing our attention and telling us that this is important and everything else is not important. Correct? Beautiful. And that's, by the way, similar to what the Yetzer Hara does. The Yetzer Hara in life will tell us that there are certain things that are important to notice, certain things that are important to see, and everything else is not important. And he'll tell us what to notice and what to filter. Okay, and our job in life is to be able to understand, to learn, to study, to the point that we know exactly what information is important for me to know, what information is important for my brain to ingest, and what information is going to be harmful for me, which things are not worth remembering. So, there was once a student that was asked, what is the most important thing to your Rebbe? And the student gave a beautiful answer. He said, the most important thing to my Rebbe is whatever he is doing at that moment. How amazing is that? The most important thing is what we're doing right now. Because if it wasn't the most important thing, then we should be doing that other thing that is more important. So whatever we are doing at any moment should always be the most important thing to us. This is the most important thing that I should be doing right now in my life. And if it's not, and there's something more important that we should be doing, then we should be doing it. And here's a line, you ready? The main thing is to know that the main thing is the main thing. I'll say that again. The main thing is to know that the main thing is the main thing. That means everything that we're doing in our lives to filter and to control whatever it is that we are doing, whatever we're thinking about, whatever we're looking at, right? To fully concentrate on the present, to be present. Because if that's important and we're doing it, then nothing else should be grabbing our attention. And a lot of times we're not doing that. A lot of times we're doing an important thing, but we allow our brains to get distracted with something that's a little bit less important. We're talking to our children, very important. And as we're speaking to them, we're looking at our phones, less important. We're speaking to our spouse, very important. And as we're speaking to them, we're reading the paper, not so important. We're listening to a class, very important. And as we're listening to the class, we're also looking at things around us that are not so important. And we're like, oh my God, I missed that. Let me rewind. And we rewind. And it takes us an hour to finish a 10-minute class sometimes, right? Right? This is something that is the power of the brains that we were given, to be like a sieve and a strainer, to filter out information that is not relevant. And again, the only way we can know what's relevant is by studying. If you're in a race and you have a goal, and the goal is to get to the finish line, and as you're running, you see somebody on the side eating a nice sandwich. Oh my gosh. Is that the Impossible Burger? Could I get a bite? Right? No one's going to ever do that. Why? Because I'm in a race, man. I have to finish. I could eat later. Right? You're not going to run to the side and grab a little ice cream sandwich because it looks good. I'm in a race. It's not important to me. The tzaddikim know that life is about getting somewhere. I have a goal, and anything that's not helping me get to that goal is garbage, and it's filtered out, and it's not necessary. And this touches on the idea of perishut. Perishut, we're studying in the morning, Mesilat Yesharim. Perishut means to abstain from permissible things. It's mutar, but it's not going to help me. And so I don't want it. It's just going to be ultimately it's going to be a distraction. And again, there's no rules on perishut. It's personal, it's subjective. It's me realizing what are my temptations, what are the things that I'm struggling with and failing at, and therefore what am I going to let go of? That is the idea of perishut. But that is that is this Mishnah over here of filtering. So again, 3 powerful ideas. I think it's enough to chew on for today. We'll stop over here. Have a Shabbat Shalom, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.